times get hard, and we're here to help at North Point.
Hello, welcome to another episode of North Point Making Health Happen. My name is Lisa Castile, your host for the program. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This series is being brought to you by North Point Health and Wellness Center. We want to connect you with topics in health and wellness that impact our community, and we want to provide you with practical tips and resources you can use. Today, we will be discussing healing through art. Joining us is Eyenga Bokamba, artist and director of the Minnesota Institute for Trauma-Informed Education at the University of St. Thomas. Eyenga brings 20 years of experience advocating for healthy, creative communities. As a former Bush Foundation Leadership Fellow, she has been described as a Minneapolis-based, multidisciplinary artist who has built a career on abstraction, using layers of acrylic, watercolor, calligraphy ink, and mixed media to explore the nuances of being. Unless you've been a guest at North Point, you may not know that we have over 200 pieces of original artwork that has been commissioned or donated by local artists to our clinics. Along with artists like Charles Caldwell, George Roberts, Eyenga's stunning art graces the halls of our main campus here at North Point Health and Wellness Center. And we are thrilled to be joining her in her studio today. Thank you so much, Eyenga, for joining us on the program today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be with you.
Yes, I'm looking around at all this stunning art and color and just so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, you know, where you grew up and what inspired you to pursue a career in art.
Absolutely. I've been an artist since I was really little. I grew up in the Midwest and then also in Africa. And I just have very distinct memories of creating, especially on surfaces I wasn't supposed to create on. For example, my parents' living room wall, when a piece of paper wasn't big enough, that would be when I was 4, up until the present moment of identifying as a writer who paints, a performance artist who paints, a painter who wants to be a sculptor. So my artistry is always morphing and changing, and it is just interesting to me to lean into that curiosity and that creativity.
Amazing, amazing. Well, there's some exciting news. So you're part of Art World, right? And Art World is having their 30th anniversary.
Yes,
this
that is
year.
Correct. 30th anniversary of Art World. Yes.
And
yes.
it's our understanding that you're one of the 30 artists who's being recognized. So tell us about that. What is Art World? What does that recognition mean to you?
Oh, thank you for that question. I'm so excited to be a part of Art World. Because it is sort of a culmination of a year-long process of creation wherein thousands of people descend upon the Twin Cities and particularly and specifically Northeast Minneapolis to partake in the Northeast Minneapolis Arts District. And NEMA, which is the Association of Northeast Minneapolis Artists, NEMA is at the forefront of gathering all of us in a membership basis to lift up what we're doing, whether it's in a studio or in a home or in a shared space or in a singular space. But there are all these creative venues that comprise what is the Northeast Arts District. So as one of 30 artists, there is a huge press campaign that is being rolled out where our quotes and our desires and background about us and there's a whole photo shoot and social media campaign. And what I love about drawing attention to this moment is that for many years, Art World has been the largest studio crawl in the country. And when you think about resilience of our city and you think about all that has transpired in Minneapolis particularly, since the murder of George Floyd, we want to find ways to honor each other and connect and to have excuses really to get together, to get our families together, to be visible, to be proud, to be resilient, to be filled with joy. And this is one of those occasions. So I feel like just super honored to be, just to be part of this huge campaign.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes, because that connection is so healing and so needed in our community.
Yes.
Still, as we recover from all that's happened
Absolutely.
here,
Absolutely.
as we rebuild as a community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wow.
Absolutely.
So you describe yourself as a artist who explores with different mediums, right? You're a painter, you're a sculptor, you describe yourself as a performance artist, okay? So all those different forms of art, do you feel that they have therapeutic benefit? And if so, can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yes, I really do believe in and experience the therapeutic benefit of the arts. And I'll just give you an example, Lisa. It happened just this past week. I was here in the studio and I had been, as we all do, reading the New York Times, doing my best to be an informed citizen, catching up with what is going on, not only in our country, but in our world. And I was just really feeling very sad, very frustrated, very angry. And, unfortunately also just having really violent reactions to the violence that's going on around us. And I really don't like that feeling in my body. It is a certain kind of poison. And what I did is when I came to the studio, I set up my paints, I set up my tray, I started to work on a very large painting, and I noticed that I was leaning over to paint. I was making some repetitive motions, and in the final stretch of completing a particular series of lines, the stretch was so deep that my breathing changed. And then I realized I am becoming more peaceful in the act of creating this particular painting. And that is, sort of just one sort of micro example. But I think that when in our society we have an opportunity to express and be creative and have an outlet for all of those feelings, to allow ourselves to have the cycle of feelings and then to work through them, that to me is the therapeutic benefit of the arts. And over time, we see that leads to healthier bodies and healthier families and healthier dispositions, right? So that's what I want that for myself, but I also just really, really, really want it for the whole society.
I love that. I love that you as you said, your breathing changed and you could feel that negative energy leaving your body.
Absolutely.
Right? As you were creating that art.
Absolutely.
And I think what you're saying, it's so reflective of what is happening in our society right now. Like you said, having some type of outlet to get that anger and that frustration out. I think it was Gordon Parks who said, art for him, his photography was his weapon of choice, right? That was how he released those same things. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the work that you do with the Minnesota Institute for Trauma-Informed Education.
Absolutely. So I'm currently working as the director of the Minnesota Institute for Trauma-Informed Education. And the Institute, the acronym is MIGHTY. So MIGHTY was started in the pandemic. It was actually started in 2021. And at that time, I was serving as a high school principal in the alternative setting. And you probably, know this, that many of our students who are in alternative school settings have experienced a lot of educational trauma by the time they get to a school like mine. And so the purpose of the school is really to increase graduation rates and success and feelings of connectivity in community, and also to address some of that educational trauma. And so as part of my time being a principal, I was asked to join a think tank, which is MIGHTY, as kind of a member of a working group that was always talking about trauma across different sectors, education and health in particular. And because of my affiliation with that, when the job opened to become director, I applied. And so now I've been with St. Thomas for a year and a half. Time has really flown by. I'm proud to say I've raised lots of money to support a couple of different initiatives that support educators in the community settings, as well as educators in K through 12 settings. And here's the last thing I'll say about my work at Mighty. I'm really excited when my work for the university, this university appointment, and my work as an artist intersect. So I love that opportunity to invite people into that intersectionality. So an example of that I'm so proud of happened just earlier this month, Lisa, and I hosted an event at the Minneapolis Institute of Arts, and it was a health equity breakfast, and I was able to feed people really good food from Roots for the Soul. Please check out Chef Helen, just giving her a shout out right now. She is brilliant, okay? Chef Helen treated us right. We had vegan burritos, and we had burritos with chorizo, and we had a breakfast parfait. I'm just telling you, food is very important, obviously.
Yes.
And we had a panel where my panelists were discussing their work to support a group of 24 organizations based in the community, supported by Youth Prize, who are doing assets-based healing work for BIPOC youth. And the entire breakfast was about assets. It was about the resilience of not only the young people, but the practitioners and educators who are serving them, and also the self-care and wellness of said practitioners, right? So I was so proud of that event. And as a part of that event, I purchased tickets for everyone who attended the event to go to the Giants show and be resourced by that, and had some MIA people come and talk about why it's such a benefit to have the Giants show here in Minneapolis, again, per our earlier conversation about what has transpired in Minneapolis and the kind of healing in particular and specific that we need in this community. And I was just so proud of that intersectionality. It was like one of the best days of my life. It was really fun.
That's so cool. Yeah, I had an opportunity to speak with Ms. Keys, and she said that, it was very important for her to bring that exhibit to the cities for the healing aspect, right, of everything that we've been through. So,
Absolutely.
Wow, that's amazing work that you're doing at Mighty. We'll have to spend some more time talking about that. But let's dive into a little bit about art therapy in a clinical setting. Do you have some opinions about that? That you can share with us?
Sure. I mean, I think speaking as an artist, I think that there are so many things that I take for granted that I would love to see happen in more settings. I'll just give you a specific example. Well, one we spoke about with the breathing and the reaching, but the other is a bit more abstract, which is just the right to create. And if you think about art in a therapeutic setting, I think one of the things that you start to encounter is that issue gets confronted. Do I have the right to create? And then by extension, do I have the right to exist? Do I have the right to my identity? It's really, for me, art in a clinical setting is about supporting the sovereignty of humans to be exactly who they are, where they are, how they are, doing the best that they can, to be connected, to be productive citizens, to be able to touch into points of happiness. Again, it's not that we need to be sort of happy all the time, but that we have access to those emotions and that range of emotions so that we can have the full human experience. And I think so in that way, for me as an artist, and also as an educator, and of course as the director of Mighty as well, that sort of access point, in my opinion, is a human right. And that's the piece that I think as a society we want to work on, we want to lean into. Because when I was growing up, my mom was so good at finding places for me to have these outlets. And since she's still with me, like I need to sort of ask her, so Mom, what, like when I was in ballet class, like all day on Saturday, tell me what you were doing. Like, I just am curious, right? That's just a sidebar. But I really appreciate the ways in which, as a parent, she was so mindful of creating those like so-called extracurricular activities for me in recognition of my deep desire to be creative sort of all the time. And she met that need. And then the beauty is that then I had the opportunity to grow up and be an artist. And there are so many among us who don't necessarily have that opportunity due to the stress of what is transpiring in the family due to economics and other challenge points. So the desire is there, but the means may not be. So then that's where I think, okay, the public realm has to step in and meet families with some opportunities for all family members to have those experiences across the generations. That would be, in my opinion, like true healing for our society.
Absolutely. And I love that, you have such a strong sense of community and that you are still deeply rooted in your community and doing all of these incredible things with your art to champion that, to give voice, right? That's amazing. So I'm going to bring this now back to North Point a little bit. May 18th, 2020, if you can think back a little bit, you unveiled an important piece here at North Point, and I believe it was entitled "Keep Going Until You Run Out of Paint." You described it yourself as a celebration of health and wellness, cellular regeneration, growth, stamina, and triumph. Wow. Tell us about that piece and what, that creative process, and why did you want to do that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that question. I'm so happy to talk about that piece because it's very important in all of my work to lift that particular and specific piece up because it's about my mom and it's about her health and her wellness journey. And she is now 2 years past a stem cell transplant. She donated 2 million of her own cells to herself in order to overcome bone cancer, multiple myeloma. And she is now statistically cancer-free and getting stronger all the time. And we have had opportunities to travel to different places. I took her to Miami to see Alvin Ailey last February. She actually joined me at North Point at the opening, and she was there along with my sister Maddie. And she got to see the placement of the piece that is about her. And so the reason it's about cellular health really is that specific moment of family challenge of how, as a family member, how do you support someone who has cancer and has options to explore. And my mother felt that the treatment that she wanted to pursue would be like medicine to her body. And that is indeed how it happened. And I had resistance to it because I would say my approach to well-being and health is sort of outside of the Western medical model. And so what I had to teach myself is how to listen to what it is that she wanted to do. So that, I think that's what the painting is about.
Sure. That's what
it's
inspired
like listening.
You to create the piece.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so if there is a guest looking at that piece, maybe someone else that's going through that journey, what are you hoping? I'm hoping that people who see the piece are really inspired to pursue the questions that they have and pursue the wellness that they see that's possible. That's really the whole thing. And it's part of a larger series called Adjacent to Happiness. And all of those pieces are very, very large. That the pieces are 68 inches by 68 inches. So where your team was able to place that painting is in a really important space, which is a community room
that is really beautiful in my mind, in part because you all are so deliberate about making sure that the community has access to that space. So it's not just that as a faculty member or a staff member of North Point, you get to go in there and do yoga and have your lunch and talk to your daughter and all these things, right? Which is important and awesome. And I think when community members also have that same opportunity, that's what's beautiful. So I really appreciate the placement of that piece for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Because that is, one of our pillars is the whole person integrated care. And I think, our approach, that's a piece of it too, is having a health center reflect everything that's going on in community, which is so beautifully captured by artists in our community, and bringing that to guests that can experience that is so powerful, right? Not keeping it behind closed doors, but having it throughout all the clinics and in the main
Absolutely,
campus.
that's huge. And you do it so well, and I'm just so honored to be a part of the collection.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, let me ask you, what do you think art can do to bridge cultural gaps and promote healing within diverse communities? I know it's a little heavier question.
Yeah, I appreciate the question, though. It gets, your questions are so wonderful, Lisa, because you really are getting at the root of what it is I believe we are grappling with in our society. And I think just looking at it from the perspective of brain processing and the ability to understand multiple messages, when you have an experience with art, it actually creates new synapses. And when you have a multimedia experience with art, then it literally blows your mind. Like you're actually experiencing words, color, sound. This is why, for example, when we have an opportunity to watch films, we are so moved, because what is a film? Film is sound. You don't even necessarily think about the soundtrack, but there are musicians who've created a soundscape for you to get lost in as you are watching these visuals. And then guess what? Someone has added color to those visuals, a particular kind of mood. And there are lighting designers. There are literally thousands of people who make a momentary glimpse into a film, make that transformative for you as a viewer, right? And my belief is that that happens across all of the art forms, because you're using different parts of the psyche to be able to comprehend what it is you're seeing. And one of the things that I really value about abstract art is that opportunity to get in and breathe, and not be told what you are seeing, but rather to have an opportunity to feel whatever it is you are feeling. So from my perspective as the creator, one creator who's working in the abstract tradition, what I value about my lineage, if you will, is that we're not existing to basically sort of push a certain and specific agenda or type of feeling or mood or thought process. It really is to create a platform really for the container of feelings themselves. And that's the invitation, is to dive into that. And when you are in a environment like North Point and you're going to address your wellness, my sincerest hope is that when people are looking at my work, that it gives them a place to dive into their deepest desires for what they want for their personal and specific health. And that's a personal journey that you're bringing to the doctor, that you're bringing to the nurse, you're bringing to the clinician. And I love being even just like a tiny part of that. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for allowing that connection. So let's see. One more thing. If just for our guests that are listening or watching, Is there anything that you would want them to remember that we've talked today about the relationship specifically between art and healing?
I would say that you have a right to spaces of healing. That's it.
I love it. Thank you so much
Thank
for being
you.
on the program today.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this week's Making Health Happen. We want you to know that we're here to partner with you and to help make health happen in your life. To learn more about North Point, call us at 612-543-2500 or visit us on the web at northpointhealth.org.